Hello everyone, how are you doing today? I hope you are staying safe. Welcome to class. Today, we still continue talking about international economic organizations. In the previous class we had before now, we have talked about ECOWAS. We have also talked about Economic Commission for Africa. Today, our focus will be on International Monetary Fund. What are the objectives we seek to accomplish? Number one, we want to give a brief historical background of IMF. Number two, we want to discuss the aims and objectives of IMF. Number three, we want to highlight its relevance and problems to the international community. This is a brief introduction. The International Monetary Fund was conceived at a UN conference on the 7th of July, 1944, and it was officially created in 1945. Then, the IMF is an international financial organization that lends money to nations of the earth, and the headquarters of IMF is situated in Washington, D.C., and their reach is global. The official language is English, and it is managed by Board of Governors. And if you look towards to the right hand, you will see the coat of arms of the International Monetary Fund. Let's move on. What brief historical background of the International Monetary Fund? It was, like I said earlier, created as an agency of the United Nations at Bretton Woods, USA, in a conference in 1944 to secure international monetary corporations, to stabilize currency exchange rates, and to expand international liquidity. That means to give countries of the earth access to dollar, or what they call hard currencies. Like I said earlier, it began its full operation in 1947 and have its headquarters in Washington, D.C. Now, what are the structures of governance or operation within the IMF? The highest ruling body of the IMF is the Board of Governors, and it is made up of the finance ministers and CBN governors of nations of the earth. And the highest governing body, which is the Board of Governors, is advised by the ministerial committees of nations. And these ministerial committees are made up of, like I said earlier, ministers of finances of nations, which advise the Board of Governors. And these two ministerial committees, there are two major ministerial committees that advise the Board of Governors. The first one is the International Monetary and Financial Committee. This committee is made up of 24 members drawn from the pool of 189 governors. And its structure mirrors that of the Executive Board, and it has 24 constituencies. And the second one is the Development Committee that advises the Board of Governors on how to improve different countries on the earth on development matters. And here you find this structure very useful. They are well enshrined in your notes in the Google Classroom. Let's quickly move on. What are the objectives of IMF? Number one, to promote international monetary corporations. Number two, to facilitate the expansion and balanced growth of international trade. One of the things that IMF done is to ensure that international trade is facilitated across nations, amongst nations of the earth. Number three, to promote exchange rate stability, to ensure that every currency of the earth is stable against the dollar. And number four, to make its resources available to its members who are experiencing balance of payment problems. In other words, the IMF funds nations which are members of IMF who are suffering from balance of payment deficit. They provide them with the money to finance such deficit. And the last one is to establish a multilateral system of payments among countries apart from the dollars. What are the criticisms of IMF? IMF is criticized because its loan is too intrusive and compromise the economic and political sovereignty of the receiving countries. In other words, before you can get money from the IMF, you have to meet up with stringent conditions which most times affect countries. One size fits all policy on all countries. They don't distinguish between developing and developed countries, and their policies sometimes can be very injurious to developing countries. Policies were imposed all at once, and they are not open to criticism or public oversight. So for more details on that, please check your notes on the Google Classroom. Thank you for participating in today's class.